do not ruin you. So today we're going to go through some of the biggest mistakes that people make with pocket jacks, so you don't end up looking like this guy. If you all are here, please let me know. Let's get right to it. Pocket jacks are an amazing hand. A lot of people think, oh man, pocket jacks are terrible because I always lose. First off, you don't always lose, and you probably are playing them poorly. If you play poorly with any hand, you're going to lose. And the neat thing about pocket jacks is that they are usually the best hand if a little bit or a medium amount of money goes into the pot. But when a ton of money goes into the pot, sometimes that's not going to be the case. And that's especially going to be the case as you get deeper and deeper and deeper stacked. So in this webinar, you're going to learn pre-flop exploits to help you lose less with pocket jacks. We'll also discuss how to play pocket jacks and marginal hands in general after the flop. And we're also going to discuss when you should go for maximum value. Let's get right to it. Mistake number one is always stacking off with pocket jacks. Many times, I'll see players get it all in with jacks, thinking, well, hopefully I'm flipping, but I'm probably against aces, kings, or queens. And well, I have a newsflash for you. Jacks does terribly against a range of jacks and better and ace king, which is very often what you will be against whenever you put in the 4-bet before the flop when you're playing deep stacked. If your opponents are going to continue against lots of aggression, they probably have something good. So you want to make sure that you find spots to keep your opponent's range wide, such that your jacks are actually crushing them, and then be okay with taking jacks post-flop without making a huge raise or re-raise before the flop. Okay? You have to get comfortable with playing after the flop if you don't have any chance of success with pocket jacks. Let's take a look at a few good spots to be passive with pocket jacks. Let's take a look at this situation first. 60 big blinds on the button versus an under the gun 8 raise first in. UTG 8 means first person to act if there are 8 people dealt in. So when that under the gun player raises and it folds around you on the button, here is your strategy. You should 3-bet queens and better and ace king straight up for value. A few hands like ace 10 offsuit and king jack offsuit as a bluff. Also a few ace x suited as a bluff, king 9, king 8, and queen 9 suited as a bluff, and maybe 7, 6 suited. 1 second, my son would like me. What would you like? I did win. Would you like to review the game? Here, start this review and see what happened. Go, try to figure out how to make it work. I'm in the middle of a webinar. Do not come in here again. Bye-bye. James is learning how to play chess. He left the game with me, and I was down a queen against a real opponent. I came back and I won. That's good. Anyway, in this scenario, notice jacks really does not 3-bet all that often at all. Instead, it calls most of the time. Same thing with 10s, same thing with 9s, 8s, 7s, 6s. All the small pairs do not re-raise. Just because you could have the best hand, and maybe because you probably have the best hand, does not mean you should re-raise, because when you re-raise and get called or 4-bet, it's not great. Notice also, ace-queen suited calls a lot. Ace-jack suited calls a lot. Queen-jack suited calls a lot, right? All these are hands that people think are probably good, yet they're just not that good. Let's take a look at another spot. 100 big blinds deep on the button versus a small blind 3-bet. So we raise the button. Small blind re-raises. Back to us. Notice, jacks again does not 4-bet all that often. And you're going to find that as you get deeper and deeper stacked, your 4-bet bluffs almost entirely come from ace-x suited and king-x suited, which is actually what's happening in this scenario. Notice ace-7 suited, king-8 suited, king-5 suited, and king-4 suited 3-bet some, and aces, kings, queens, and ace-king. I'm sorry, not 3-bet. They 4-bet some, and aces, kings, and queens 4-bet some, whereas jacks, 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s, etc., they just call. That's it. Dark Knight of Thrones says it's great to call at a loose table. Now look, if your opponents are going to call your 3-bet with all sorts of junk, then you should 3-bet with jacks, just straight up for value. If your opponents are only going to 4-bet with aces, kings, queens, and ace-king, plus a lot of bluffs because they're loose and crazy, well then, that's fine. They have all the good hands, but they also have way too many garbage hands, right? If your opponents are only going to 4-bet with the absolute nuts, but call your 3-bet with all sorts of trash, then sure, put in the value re-raise. You got to realize that you should always be asking, what do my opponents do wrong, and what should I do to take advantage of them? And look, jacks will fare fine enough, very multi-way, but if you can 3-bet pre-flop against someone's raise and get called by king 6 offsuit, that's obviously a great result because you're way, way ahead of stuff like king 6 offsuit. But if they're going to fold the king 6 offsuit, well, then now you miss out on getting post-flop value. So anyway, a lot of people think that they always have to raise and re-raise and re-re-raise with jacks, and you will see that that is simply not true. Now, when you are shallow stacked, say you have 20 big blinds, you should be loading your money in with jacks. Don't be afraid of getting it in for 20 big blinds with jacks, because jacks is actually very, very good when you are shallow stacked. But as you get deeper and deeper, you must not stack off too wide. Mistake number 2 is playing badly with marginal hands. This is the number 1 mistake I see small stakes cash game players make. You need to make a point to stop putting in so much money when your premium pre-flop hand becomes a marginal hand on the flop. So many people get married to their hand pre-flop. They think, oh, I have jacks. It's one of the best hands. I'm sure not folding that. And I'm just going to bet because I probably have the best hand. And the thing is, yeah, you probably have the best hand when a whole lot of money does not go in the pot. When a whole lot of money goes in the pot, you do not have the best hand. Let's take a look at some examples. Here we raise it up to $10, playing $1, $3 with pocket jacks. In the hijack seat, we're actually playing 1-3, looks like. Big blind calls. Flop comes, queen, 10, 5. Opponent checks. Should we bet or should we check right off the bat? Take a second, think about it. I think we can go either way in the spot between betting and checking. I don't think it matters all that much. We do bet $10. Opponent calls. Fine. They can call with many, many worse hands here. They can call with a 10. They can call with a 5. They can call with draws, etc. Turns an 8 of clubs. Opponent checks again. Should we value bet now with our pocket jacks? Well, now it's a little bit more difficult for them to call with a random 5, right? It's also a little bit more difficult for them to call with a bad 10 even. They may, but it's a little bit difficult. And the thing is, they're literally never going to fold a queen. Ever. They're never folding a queen. So when they have a queen, we're just loading money into the pot poorly. When they have a 5 or a 10, let it go check, check. They're going to outdraw you 15% of the time or something like that, and we're going to lose. And the other portion of the time, we can then get in a thin value bet on the river if they check to us. If they bet the river, we can just find a call, right? This is a spot where we want to play a medium-sized pot. This player, though, made the mistake of betting. Todd played this hand. Todd messed this up. Sorry, Todd. You got to check it back. The opponent raises. Look, perhaps we could justify the turn bet if the opponent is a bit of a calling station. When the opponent raises us on the turn, though, we are going to be in terrible shape. They're going to show us probably 2-pair and better. I realize that we block the jack 9. A lot of people think, well, they can't have jack 9, so I should probably call. Without realizing, if your opponent has 2-pair, they're just going to put in a check raise and load money into the pot, and that's really, really bad for us. Other people in this spot think, well, I have a gut shot straight draw, and, you know, if I make a set, it's probably good. First off, your set may not be good, and if it is good, you may not get paid off when you get there. And that's only 6 outs. This is just a fold. This is just a fold. Easy fold. Todd didn't fold, though. Todd thought, I have jacks. I can't fold jacks. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, Todd. River. Opponent bets $120. They could be bluffing. The flush draw missed. 9-7 missed. 7-6 missed. So many hands missed. But does the opponent even have those in their range? Probably not. This is just a fold. Fold. Fold, Todd. Fold. You got to fold. Todd called. Queen 8 of hearts. Not shocking. Every once in a while, you may be shown a busted flush draw here, or every once in a while, you might be shown crazy 9-7 of hearts or something like that. But this is a spot where you're just going to be against good hands. So you got to fold. This was not a very well played hand by Todd. All right, let's take a look at another one. We have jacks. We raise it up. Button calls. Queen 10-3, out of position. Should we better check now? you've been studying at pokercoaching.com, you know you need to do a lot of checking out of position, especially when the flop connects decently well with the opponent's range. So out of position, you naturally have to check a lot. And on this board, we definitely want to check a lot because the opponent's going to have a lot of queens that are going to call pre-flop and then obviously never fold. So this is a spot where we want to just check and see what develops. We check, opponent checks it back. Good. Turns a 6 of spades. Should we bet or should we check? I would think that as this player is more passive in general, you should be somewhat inclined to value bets. You really don't want to let it go check, check, and just never really induce bluffs and always let your opponent realize equity with an ace or a king, or with like 10-9 or something like that. That said, checking is also fine. As your opponent's going to raise you more often, you should be somewhat inclined to not load your money into the pot. So we do check. Opponent bets 15. Should we call or should we raise? Or should we just let it go? Should we ever just let it go? Well, we absolutely cannot fold here. We have checked twice. This is one of the best hands we can have. We're probably going to bet the queen on the turn, right? This is a spot we're going to be betting almost every queen on the turn unless it's really bad. And we're not raising a whole lot of really bad queens. So this is a spot where we definitely need to check and call. If we check and raise and we get called, it's a disaster because then we're going to be in terrible shape. We want to check, call, and keep the opponent's range wide. You should bet to find out where you stand. This is not good logic against anyone who will play anywhere near well. If you bet and your opponent calls, what does that tell you? It doesn't tell you have the best hand. They could easily call the queen. If you bet and they raise, they may have a draw. We could easily be way ahead. So betting with the idea that my opponents are going to play so blatantly straightforward is usually not a good strategy, unless your opponents really are just the absolute most straightforward players in the world. Another big problem with betting on the turn is that if we bet every queen, either on the flop or on the turn, and we bet jacks, what are the best hands we can have on the turn? We have, what, like a 10 now. If we have a 10 and worse, all the opponent has to do to crush us is blast turn and blast river when we check. And then we're in terrible shape. So this is a spot where we must protect our checking range. And I think a jack does a really good job of protecting the checking range. River's a 2 of diamonds. We check. Opponent bets $25. What do you want to do? Write it in the comment section. While you're down there, click the like and subscribe button. Text your friend. Tell them to get in the webinar. We have a lot more to go through. This is a trivially easy call. It's not even close. When all the draws miss and your range looks potentially weak to your opponent, because maybe they think you bet every queen and pocket jacks and 10 on the turn, well then, what do you have? You have nothing. If you have nothing, because that is how a lot of people play, they do not protect their checking ranges at all. Well, we're certainly not trying to go around folding pocket jacks. You may say, will my opponent ever be bluffing here, though? I mean, if you give them ace high, king high, jack high, 9 high, 8 high, I think a lot of people are going to bluff here. Maybe you're thinking they won't bluff using this size. You don't know what size bluffs your opponents are going to use. If they're anywhere near decent, they're going to mix it up. So, in this scenario, when you are looking to hero call, which cards do you really not want to have in your hand? In this spot, I think we especially do not want to have a heart or a spade, because when we have hearts and spades, it makes it less likely that they have busted flush draws. And also, we don't really want to have a jack, a 9, or an 8, or a 7, because those are all hands that would conceivably bluff on the river. Now, inevitably, we're going to have some of those. You can't be super picky and only call with like the exact perfect bluff catchers. But in this spot, I think not having hearts, not having a 9, 8, or 7 for obvious busted draws, the opponent will feel inclined to bluff every time. It's just an easy call. And to be fair, in this spot, even if I had the worst jacks, jack of spades, jack of hearts, I would still just call. We call. Opponent shows 9, 8 of diamonds. Who'd have thought? The opponent is representing a set. I do not think the opponent's representing a set. They're representing a range of top pair and better made hands and a lot of busted draws. You have to realize, anytime anyone makes a bet, they're not saying, I have 3 of a kind and that's it. No, if they only have 3 of a kind, then it means they're terrible. This is a situation where when anyone makes a bet at any point in the hand, they're saying, I have some sort of a range. What does their range look like? Their range, in any spot when they're betting on the river, should at least start with all the best hands and some bluffs to balance that out. Now, I realize some players in small stakes games literally never bluff. If they literally never bluff, then sure, maybe they are only betting with a set. And if they're only betting with a set, then obviously fold everything. They cannot beat a set. Most people are not that blatantly terrible. If you are against someone who only bets the river with a set, well, then your life's going to be super easy because you just fold every time they put money in the pot. Easy game. And you win every time they don't put money in the pot. Easy game, right? If you found that those types of players, you're going to take all their money. Congratulations, you won. Most players don't play that poorly. Anytime anyone bets, they are saying I have a range, and their range, if they're anywhere near decent, contains some value hands and some bluffs. Okay? Anyway, this is an easy call when all the draws miss, and our hand is perhaps underrepresented, as a lot of people will think. This is a spot this is just an auto call. Knowing how the opponent thinks after this hand, it's easier to play against them next hand. Quite often, you don't know much about your opponent from any individual hand unless they make some sort of blunder. In this scenario, the opponent didn't make a blunder at all. Let's go back to the beginning of this hand. They called our preflop raise with 9-8 suited. Fine. Check on the flop with 9 high. Fine. Maybe they should bluff. On the turn, we check. They have double gut shot. Certainly they should bet. Obviously bet here with 9 high with double gut shot. On the river, they have 9 high. They cannot win with the check. They don't block us from having ace high, king high, jack high. Easy bluff on the river. This opponent played this hand very well. So what do we learn in this hand? The opponent plays well? I mean, maybe they just guessed right and played well. Maybe they're terrible. Who knows? What's the difference between this hand and the previous hand? In this hand, we played a small pot. We checked. In the previous hand, we were betting. We bet the flop and bet the turn. Here we didn't bet the flop or the turn. Also, we're out of position. When you have a medium strength hand, you want to play medium-sized pots. You often do that by not loading money into the pot. Under pairs are not great. Okay? Mistake number 3. Not going for maximum value. If mistake number 1 is putting too much money in the pot with marginal made hands, mistake number 2 is not putting in enough money with premium hands. You have to stop caring so much about making sure you get called when you have a premium hand and start caring about getting full value. When you make the nuts or the effective nuts with a hand like pocket jacks, you want to do everything you can within reason to get the money in. When you have a medium strength hand, you don't want to play a big pot. When you have the nuts or the effective nuts, you want to load money into the pot. Okay? Let's take a look. Pocket jacks. We raise it up. Big blind calls. King jack 2, we got it. Opponent checks. Should we ever check behind? Checking behind would be a disaster. We absolutely want to bet, and we want to bet kind of big on this board. This is an incredibly dynamic board, meaning super nut hands at the moment are somewhat unlikely to not be super nut hands by the river. Notice in this scenario, if the turn is an ace or a queen or a 10 or a 9 or a spade, all of those are really bad for our second nuts on the flop. Anytime that's the case, you want to be sizing up your bet. On dynamic boards, especially when you have a lot of nuts in your hand, you want to be betting big. We bet 2/3 pot here. I wouldn't be shocked if even bigger is better. You may say, but my opponent's just going to fold. Well, if they have nothing, they're going to fold. But if they have nothing, they're going to fold to any bet. If they have a king, they're never going to fold. If they have a draw, they're never going to fold. So let's load it in there. And you got to realize, when they have nothing, it's not like they're just all of a sudden going to decide to try to bluff you on the turn in the river. Turn to 7 of hearts. Opponent checks. Pot's $49 with 176 behind. Are we betting all 3 streets? It depends on what the board runs out. If the turn and the river are both spades, obviously we're not going to bet. If the turn and the river are a 7 and a 7, obviously we're going to bet. Depends on the run out. If our premium hand on the flop becomes marginal by the river, no, we're not going to bet every time. You also bet big with draws or more marginal hands. Oh, you want to be betting big on this board in general with your entire betting range. We will be checking back a lot of hands like a jack on this flop. And we want to be betting big with draws and probably king 9 and better, something like that. Maybe checking back some bad kings to protect our checking range. On the turn, we want to bet big. The board's even more dynamic. The pot's $49. I like a chunky bet here. Chunky. We actually go $65. Mike Stanto in the chat says $65 2 times before I reveal the $65 bet. Nice job. Good work. This is a spot where if you've studied how to play on dynamic boards on pokercoaching.com, you know that you are going to be betting big. On dynamic boards, you want to bet very big. Overpot is allowed. We are playing no limit Texas variety. In Texas variety, you can bet any amount you would like, not only the size of the pot. Opponent calls. Oh my gosh, they must have something. River's a 6 of diamonds. They check. Are we scared here? No, we are not scared. The question becomes, how much do we bet? A lot of people in this spot think, I need to bet an amount so I get called. Well, the problem with that is that when they do have a king, you're just going to lose money. Imagine we bet $12 here into 179. We're going to get called every time. But we don't stack the opponent for $111, right? This is a situation where, yeah, a tiny bet will get called almost every time, but we want to focus on getting called by the hands that make logical sense to the opponent. Remember, the opponent called our overpot bet on the turn. So what do they likely have? They likely have a good made hand, which is going to be, I don't know, king 10 and better, or they have a busted draw. How much is a busted draw going to call? $0, maybe 12. How much is a made hand going to call? All of it, 111. Notice we only have 2/3 pot. If we were even deeper stacked here, we would be betting like overpot on this river. When you have the super duper nuts, you want to be blasting it. We're all in, easy all in. Opponent calls. They're going to have probably good king or better. They do have good king or better. We get full value. What a lot of people do wrong here, though, let's go back. A lot of people don't bet the flop. Or if they do bet the flop, they bet $5 because they really want to get called. If you bet $5 on the flop or you check it back, the pot's going to be small going to the turn in the river. On the turn, what do people do wrong? The pot's 49. They bet 20, thinking I really want to get called. But no, not on dynamic boards you don't. That's for sure. If the board was less coordinated, we would go smaller, but still quite big in this scenario with this hand because there are still king and jack of spades on the flop. Say it was like a 7 of diamonds, maybe we would go closer to the size of the pot. Down the river, easy all in. And really, if I had like $300, I'm just going to shove it all in here. So happy to go for overpot in this spot. Let's take a look at another one. Jacks again. Everyone's favorite hand. We raise it up. Only the cutoff calls. 10-7-4. What do we do? Take a second. Think about it. You all may not like this one, but it's definitely the right play. We should check. If you're in the big blind, do you lead out on the flop? No, you do not bet into the aggressor on the previous betting round because you should always lack the range advantage. This deep you check. That is correct. This board is great for the cutoff calling range, not so great for my range. This is a spot to check and then raise. If you studied the advanced tournament course at pokercoaching.com, you know that 10 high boards that are kind of connected, like this one is, really do not want to get bet very often at all by the initial raiser when they are out of position. Okay, so we need to check. If we are going to bet, we probably do want to go on the bigger side because the board is very dynamic. But how do you go even bigger than big? Well, you check raise. So we check. Opponent bets $10. Notice, in this hand, we're actually playing 165 big blinds deep. This spot feels kind of spooky. Yeah, a lot of people think, well, if I get all my money in, I must be beat. Not on a super draw heavy board. Not if your opponent's anywhere near decent. Do we call or raise? This is the easiest raise in the world. Jacks and queens really, really, really want to raise in this scenario. Why? Because they're almost always good, but they're very, very vulnerable to being outdrawn. Notice in this spot, we can easily get called by a 10. We can easily get called by draws. This is a super, super, super duper easy check raise, and you want to check raise pretty big because whatever the opponent's betting should have decent equity. We go 55. Pretty big. Nice, chunky, big bet. I like it. Natty says you click the thumbs up button. Thank you. Opponent calls, turns it to a spades. What do we do? Do we check or do we bet? Well, board is pretty dynamic again. We almost always have the best hand. Yeah, we could be beat by sets. I want to make it clear. We could be beat by sets. How many combinations of sets are there? 3 10s, 3 7s, 3 4s. 2s would fold, so 2s don't count. 9 combinations of hands. Maybe they have queens sometimes. Probably not, though. This is a situation where we beat some hands, too, though. Notice if they have ace 10 or king 10 or queen 10 or jack 10, they're not really going to be trying to fold top pair to a check raise. Right? What if they have a flush draw? There's lots of those. What if they have a straight draw? There's lots of those. This is a spot where we have the best hand most of the time, and the opponent either has a good but worse made hand a lot, or a draw. So this is a spot where we want to load money into the pot. You may be thinking we need to put in the check raise now again, but no. When you check raise the flop, your range should be very polarized. When your range is very polarized, you're really not going to do a whole lot of checking on a blank turn. Because if your range was strong and polarized on the flop, and the turn's a blank, like a 2 of spades, which is a complete blank, it is still going to be polarized on the turn, meaning we have lots and lots of nut hands in our range, and our opponent did not re-raise, so presumably they have almost no nut hands in their range. They could have some, maybe they would have a lot of nuts, but we certainly do at this point. So this is a spot we're going to keep betting. Double check raise. Can I say it's for fish? Yeah, double check raise is for fish. All right, we're going to bet, and we're going to bet big. Bet $100. Opponent jams us. Some of you are saying you want to bet smaller on the turn, like $60 or $70. You want to go pretty big because you want to make sure you're not giving the draws excellent odds just to easily call. Can we call it off? Now look, in most small stakes games, most people under bluff. The thing is, on this board, all the bluffs are available. There's a ton of bluffs available. Also, a lot of people will look at a hand like ace 10 and think, well, got to put my money in. Or king 10 or queen 10 and think, well, here it is. Let's see. That's Admirable says. The double check raise here you assume would have to target specific players you can exploit. Yeah, I mean, if you know your opponent's always going to bet the turn when you check, because that's just what they do, because they're maniacs, then sure. Feel free to double check shove them. Check raise flop, check shove turn. You put them on ace 10 of hearts. Why couldn't they have king 10 of hearts? Why couldn't they have king 10 offsuit? Why couldn't they have 9-8 of diamonds? Why couldn't they have 6-5 of spades? Come on. You cannot put someone on one hand. You cannot put someone on one hand. Always put your opponent on a range. In situations like this, the opponent could easily have sets and draws, and probably like king 10 and better. Should they jam king 10 and better? Maybe, probably not. But a lot of people will. Understand you're always putting the opponent on a range. Easy call here. Lots of draws are available. Some people think, well, when they check raise, they always have a set. If they always have a set, then they're terrible. Now, if you know they're terrible, because they're super duper weak and tight and nitty, then sure, fold. But if they're anywhere near decent, you got to put your money in. We call. Ace 2 of hearts. Spicy one. Probably wouldn't shove ace 2 of hearts. Maybe fine, though. We get it in. By the way, when we get it in, We're losing this hand about, 18% of the time. Hope you're cool with that. If you get it in here and lose, I do not want you typing a bad beat story in the comment section below. Sometimes you're going to lose here. It is okay. Understand that if you're not playing with a proper bankroll, you may be mentally distraught whenever you get it all in an obvious spot and then lose. But that happens. Sometimes your opponent shows you the 4-2 of diamonds. Then you're really tilted. You're like, oh, they bad beat me with 4-2 of diamonds. How could this happen to me? I'm so unlucky. You still have outs. You have 8 outs going to the river. It's fine. You're almost getting the right odds to call if you knew they had 2 pair. It is okay. Such is life. You will be okay. So, those are the 3 mistakes to avoid with pocket jacks. Number 1, always stacking off preflop. Do not do that. Number 2, playing badly when jacks becomes a marginal hand postflop. And number 3, not going for max value often enough. Father's Day is coming up. So, we are having our biggest sale since Black Friday. We have lots and lots and lots of bonuses lined up for you. I want to share them with you. First things first, we're going to have a fast action bonus for all of you today. Is it today? Does it start today? No, it starts tomorrow. When does it start? June 9th at 2 p.m. EDT. I don't know what that is. 11 a.m. Pacific time. 2 p.m. tomorrow Eastern. We're starting the sale. The first 20 people who do sign up are going to be getting one of 20 one-hour private coaching sessions with poker coaching coaches. Just included. I'll explain how to get those in a minute. Also, I'm excited to announce a brand new tool we have coming very, very soon to Poker Coaching Premium. It's going to provide you a fun way to learn GTO preflop ranges without feeling like you have to memorize them, because I know memorizing flashcards is not fun. Instead, we're going to test you with our program called Clear the Charts, the GTO preflop trainer that will help you learn the GTO preflop ranges for many spots. As you play the various hands from a specific chart, for example, 15 big blinds, under the gun versus a cutoff 3-bet all-in, the game will mark those hands as cleared. And the goal is to keep playing until you have completely cleared the chart, and you get them all correct. So, whether you want to jump in and train for just 5 minutes, or if you want to clear the entire chart, it's a great way to practice preflop ranges in your spare time. Some people have been using it on the app. We have had beta mode available on the app for quite a while. It's going to be coming to the website, and we're going to have lots and lots and lots of situations loaded up. So yeah, it's available right now on the app if you want to go test it out for premium members. If you join right now, you'll get access to our brand new course called Crush the WSOP, where you get to level up your tournament game in 30 days. This course has everything you need to get in there and crush the World Series of Poker from this team of absolute crushers. Our coaches have been smashing the World Series of Poker so far, and I am excited to have access to this course myself because I'm learning a lot. We're going to be discussing pre-flop, post-flop, ICM, and really focus on how to make deep runs in World Series of Poker events. So, if you sign up when we open it up tomorrow at pokercoaching.com/fathers, you're going to get access to our advanced tournament course, which normally sells for $997 for free, just included. This course features all sorts of advanced content that I actually learned a lot in the process of making, and these coaches who I personally hired to learn from have shared tons and tons and tons of invaluable knowledge for us. Bonus number 2 you'll be getting if you sign up. A while back, I coached a small group of students twice a month for 5 years, and we've recorded everything. It's over 240 hours of, call it, semi-private group coaching. These videos are not for sale, but if you sign up for Poker Coaching Premium during the Black Friday sale, you will get free access to those, as long as you're a Poker Coaching Premium member. Tip number 3. You're also going to get a free subscription to PokerGo so that you can watch the World Series of Poker and all the other shows that they have on PokerGo. Just included, you just get access to PokerGo for free. Also, you're going to get exclusive access to our new series, How to Bink Tournaments, with Brock Wilson and Rampage Poker. If you all been following Rampage Poker recently, he's been on a meteoric rise. It's been absolutely insane. Maybe he's not playing with a proper bankroll management. I'm not sure. But look, he has been absolutely crushing it. After his first lesson with Brock, he won his first high roller tournament. And then he's continued winning a bunch more since then. You'll get full access to that course as well. We also have a course that came out recently from Aram Zobian, who has final tabled the World Series of Poker main event for $1.8 million. He's also made a whole lot of other deep runs since then. He actually just won a high roller tournament himself recently in the Poker Go studio. In this course, he teaches how to really get out of line and exploit the mistakes your opponents are very likely to make. And in soft tournaments like the World Series of Poker, that's when you're going to be able to maximally exploit your opponents. A lot of players are playing their only big buy-in tournament of the year, and, well, a lot of them really don't want to go broke in the first day. If you know your opponent really doesn't want to go broke in the first day, that makes life easy for you. Premium members also get access to over 700 classes on all sorts of topics. We have a handy-dandy search bar here. You can search whatever topic you want. It'll come right up. If you cannot find what you're looking for, send us an email and we'll either direct it to you or we'll make it. Simple as that. We also have over 1,900 interactive hand quizzes where we put you in a spot, kind of like we did earlier in this webinar in all those Pocket Jacks hands, where I ask you, what would you do in this situation? And you have to commit to it. You have to click a button that says, I wanted to call or I wanted to raise. And then you get feedback from either myself or my other coaches who make the quizzes. And over time, you'll start to see that maybe you play really well pre-flop, but kind of bad on the river. Or maybe you play really well on the river, but kind of bad pre-flop. And that will help you know where you really want to focus your attention to studying, while also letting you essentially play lots of hands in your spare time at home when you can't make it to the casino. And have a coach over your shoulder helping you out on every single decision point. So, for Father's Day, we're going to give away a fast action bonus of 20 private coaching sessions to the first 20 people who sign up. You can check it out at pokercoaching.com/fathers. Here's what we have currently lined up to give away. Maybe we'll add more. We'll see. 9 people will get a 1-hour coaching session from Brock Wilson. He charges $1,000 an hour for private coaching. That may sound pricey, but it's well worth it. Brock is literally one of the best poker players in the entire world, and we're giving away 9 hours of coaching from him. He's a regular in all the high-stakes tournaments, all the way up to $100,000 buy-in tournaments. He's cashed for over $6.3 million. He's an excellent multi-table tournament player. He's an expert at GTO and solvers, and he's currently ranked in the top 50 in the world. He's a crusher. Then you have little old me. I'm giving away 6 hours of coaching. I charge $500 an hour for coaching. Hopefully, I do not need to introduce myself at this point. Next, we have Aram Zobian. He charges $400 an hour for private coaching. He's final table the main event. He's winning high roller tournaments recently. He's an absolute crusher. And if you want to learn exploitative play, he is the guy. So, here's how you get one of the 20 fast action bonuses. Go to pokercoaching.com/fathers. right now, which is before 2 p.m. EDT. I don't know what 2 p.m. EDT is. Maybe it's 1 p.m. Eastern. I don't know. Go there now, before June 9th, and click on the Add to Calendar button on that page after you scroll down a little bit to remind yourself when this launch happens. And then, on Friday, June 9th, a few minutes before it launches, go to pokercoaching.com/fathers. When the countdown timer on that page reaches 0, it'll automatically redirect you to the live sales page. If it does not redirect you for some reason, click the refresh button and it'll take you to the site. And then from there, be one of the first 20 people to sign up for a 2-year premium membership during our Father's Day sale to secure one of the 20 one-on-one coaching sessions from literally 2 of the best poker players in the world, Brock and Aram, and me. So that's it. Head over to pokercoaching.com/fathers. That's how you get in there. That's what we have for you. You get complete access to everything at pokercoaching.com. We've been making content for a long time. We consistently upload lots and lots of new content. If you sign up for 2 years, I'm not going to spoil it all for you. We have a lot in the works from literally the best poker players in the world. Some players I thought I would never be able to get to make content on a training site are working hard right now making content. I can't spoil it, though. I want to spoil it, but I can't. I can't do it. Okay. That's it for today. If you enjoyed today's video, click the like and subscribe button below. I appreciate all of you being here. I hope you learned a little bit about how to play the Pocket Jacks better. To recap, Stop stacking off with your pocket jacks. You need to make a point to look to play a little bit more passively and keep your opponent's ranges wide before the flop. Jacks do really, really well against loose ranges, but not so well against the super nuts. Next, you need to stop playing badly when pocket jacks becomes a marginal made hand after the flop. If the flop comes with an overcard, jacks is just okay. It's not the nuts anymore, and if it's not the nuts anymore, stop loading money into the pot. And tip number 3 is that you are probably not going for maximum value often enough. When you make the nuts, it is your chance to add a ton of money to your win rate by making the pot big. When you make a premium hand, load money into the pot. Please, 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 load money into the pot when you make the nuts. That's it for today. Again, check out pokercoaching.com/fathers. It has full information about the sale, pricing, whatever. If you have any questions, send us an email at support@pokercoaching.com. We'll get back to you quickly. And that's that. Also, if you are already using the Clear the Chart feature on the app, let me know what you think. I do know there were a few bugs. We're working through those, and we're finally ready to launch the program on our website as well as the app. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of, call them mini games in the works for the app that will teach you all sorts of poker strategies so that you can learn in a fun, interactive way. And that's just going to be included. All of it's just included. Once you're in, you're in. That's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you make the most of your Friday and weekend. Hope you enjoy yourself. If you're at the World Series and you see any of our coaches, feel free to say hi. If you see me, feel free to say hi. I'll be out there in a little while. Good luck. Have fun. Click the like and subscribe button. And I'll talk to all of you next time. Bye-bye.